Hello, my friends. Today's a special day. You want to know why it's a special day? Because today I'm going to teach you how to become an artist. I'm going to teach you how to create your own GIFs and how to take those GIFs and format them in such a way to where it makes this screen from Steelseries very beautiful. And it's going to be so cool and fun. I promise you, it's going to be fun. Or if you don't like this sort of thing, then maybe you get upset and be sad. But I want you to have fun, okay? We're going to have fun. For this tutorial, you're going to need Photoshop. If you can do it on maybe another program, utilize this video in a way to kind of build ideas. But yeah, this is strictly a Photoshop tutorial, and maybe you can use this knowledge to help you with another program that you're using, which is very possible. So yeah, or maybe you're watching this video to see if you want to get this keyboard. And the truth is, it's really easy to customize once you know these few steps that I'm going to teach you. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Before we start this video, I have another video on how to reformat existing GIFs to fit the OLED screen. But let's jump right into this video on how to create your own GIFs to fit the OLED screen. So before we start, I just want to make sure that all of you have the Steelseries software that comes with your keyboard installed. This software will pop up as soon as you plug in your keyboard for the first time, and you will be able to install it. Before we start, I would want everybody to check and make sure that their pixel resolution on their OLED screen is the same. This information will be given on this screen right up here. It tells you that you should use 128 pixels by 40. And I'm assuming that it's the exact same over all platforms, the Apex 5, Apex 7, etc. But just in case, it's good to make sure that you're working with the same resolution that I am. If not, just change the pixel resolutions when we hit the page about pixel resolutions. You will not see this GIF when you open it. This is a GIF I already have installed. So now that we're ready to get started, let's open up Photoshop. Now, once you're in the Photoshop menu, we'll go over here to Create, and you'll go over here to change the pixel size to 128 by 40, 70 resolution. Just all the settings I have here. If you know something else and you would like to change something, you can, but this is the pixel resolutions I will be using for this tutorial. However, if you would like to make something more advanced, like a more advanced GIF, maybe like the one that you just saw on the screen here, something more advanced like this, where there's a lot of pixels going on and it's kind of hard to start from scratch, I would recommend working on a higher pixel dimension, like 920 by 600. This is the same exact ratio as 128 by 40, and just ended up scaling it down to 128 and having to do a little bit more rework afterwards. But we're just going to be working with 128 by 40 and do some more pixel-based animations. But I will, however, go over how to create these animations with a higher pixel density and convert them back into a smaller pixel density. So when you open up Photoshop, it should look something like this. If it doesn't, you can go up to Window, Workspace, and Essentials. And if you're still having problems, you can go to Window, and these are all the layouts that I have set up, and you can just click these. Okay, now that we know that, we can go over here to Adjustments. This is very important. Will be how you're making this more black and white pixel-based system, which the OLED screen only works with black and white. There's no gray, there's no other colors but black and white. So we're going to go here to Threshold. We're going to open this window. Now, it's important to note that all of your drawings that you will create for this GIF should be under this threshold. Now, you can create several layers underneath this. Well, that's putting it above it, but you can move them underneath underneath the layers. So a good note is that you want to make sure that when you add the extra layers, that you add them underneath them, because for some reason it seems to bug it if you put them above them and bring them back down. And now you can draw on these. And I can show you, this is the little dial here. You want to be only drawing in black and white, so make sure you have those selected. It'll just make it the easiest. You can click here, just on the color itself to change it. And you're going to go black, switch the color to white. So as you can see, we're going to need to zoom in because this is quite zoomed out and you can't really see what's going on. So to do this, you do Control or Command on Mac, I believe, and hit plus, Control plus or Command plus, and just zoom it up. So now that we have that, you're going to go to the draw icon, which is over here. And now that we have the threshold selected up here, we can draw in pixels of black and white. And we can draw on different layers and delete them, which will be important for when we want to make our GIF. What you don't want to do is draw on the threshold itself, because that won't do anything, and it'll just mess up layers in the future. What you can also do is change the intensity of this, making it either harder to put in a line or easier. So I forgot to mention what threshold does. If we go here to place embedded image, you can just take one of these owls here, which is really colorful. Okay, so now with the threshold, as long as it is above the image, we can click this and it will change every image into black and white pixels. There can no longer be gray pixels, colorful pixels, whatever. And to adjust the sensitivity of this, you just go up here, go here, and here. And this function is super helpful when importing GIFs, or if you have drawings that you want to turn into GIFs, or you already have an animation of your own that you want to turn into a GIF for your OLED screen. So this function is extremely useful for that. Now, the OLED software will already invert it to white and black. So if you feel more comfortable working on a white background, you can, or you can work on a black background. For this tutorial, just to make things a little bit visually easier, because I tend to like the black background, I am going to just change in here a setting. I'm going to go to plus, and then I'm going to go to this little circle icon here, then to solid color. And for me, it's already been selected in black, and I'm going to press OK. This layer I'm going to put on the bottom of each layer, except that layer. I'm going to delete that one. And now I should be able to draw over the top of the layer, if it's visible, with these white pixels, making a little peanut. You always can undo with Control-Z or Command-Z on Mac. So now we're going to start the process of actually making our GIF. But before we do that, we don't have a timeline set up. So we're going to go up to Window, go down to Timeline, and then go down to Create Frame Animation. And there you go. There's your first frame. And it's completely black. And then we can go over here to Add, and we can add as many frames as we want. We can also go over here to Play, and it will play the frames. Now these frames are playing pretty fast, so what I'm going to do is change them to 0.2. Now, the software in the OLED screen for your keyboard already has a set time for each frame, so the frames here may show up differently than the frames on the screen, the timing of the frames, that is. So, for this, we're just going to create a simple little owl just to demonstrate. Also, as you can see, right now, I'm using a very small brush, which is already 1 pixel. You can go and change that by right here. If you want to use a huge brush that will cover the entire screen, which is completely useless, you can do that as well. So if you want to cover a big space, you can still use big brushes, but I just like to work in pixel by pixel, and you can change the pixel size right there. So I'm just going to make a cool little owl guy, and then I will come back to you when I have the first image finished. Okay, now we have our first image of this kind of timid owl that doesn't look very happy. And we're going to want to make some sort of movement, basically our GIF. And so what we're actually doing is creating an animation. So the next frame is this. As you can see, it's the exact same thing. So what we're going to do is we want something that's similar to this image, but just altered a bit. So we're going to go right here to the image that I have just created, which is this, and go to duplicate layer. Not delete, duplicate. I do that a lot, but you can get it back if you do accidentally delete something. Just hit Command-Z and you'll be fine. Now, as you can see, we have 2 identical layers right here, but it has distorted the image. So what we want to make sure is that only one of these images at a time is visible so that it won't distort the image at all. So I'll come back when I have altered the image a bit. Another useful thing to note is that you can go right up here to the selection tool. Let's say you want a wing that is similar, but you don't want the exact wing to be in the same place, but you want the rest of the body to stay somewhere else. You can go select like this and hit transition, and you can move this image anywhere you want. You can even rotate. Now be careful when rotating on such a small scale because it may change the pixelation drastically, like so. And after you have rotated it, you can still select and move it in place. Also, it is important to note to get rid of this box, you just go here and deselect. Then you can continue working. Now that we have our second image, we can go back to the first frame and make sure that we have the first frame that we drew selected. Then we can go over to the second frame and open the second frame that we have selected, like so. So if we play this out, currently we have this. Now, when adding multiple frames, sometimes the visible layers will become jumbled up, and just every once in a while, you have to do some cleanup work and just make sure that the correct frames are selected, or the correct images are selected with the correct frames. So, to complete this GIF, I'm going to create one more image, and then we'll be ready. And I'll show you how to export your great GIF. Okay, so now I've created 3 images that I would like to use in my animation and just have to rearrange them in a way that makes sense. And it's also important to note that I'm not quite sure how many frames the OLED screen will allow you to use, but just keep in mind that you might want to check on that if you're working on something on a large scale. So now that I'm pretty much finished, to complete the image, I will need to have a set of 4, and I want this to be able to loop. So the last one will be the same as the second. So this last frame, I'm just going to change to the second one. So now if I play it, it's this little owl, just like yawning or something. He's a fine. As you can see, the owl is kind of off to the side. So you might be wondering, you might fall into the same circumstance where you've created something, but it's not in the right place. You can just go on to every one of these images that is selected and do the same thing. Just go and loop them and transition them to the selected and desired place. So if you want to make sure that your image is perfectly centered, or at least centered as best as possible, just draw a little line to the furthest line that hits, and then take your loop tool. There's probably other ways to test this, but this is just an easy, quick way that I like to use. Take your loop tool and go ahead and move that. By the way, I don't know if that's called a loop tool or whatever, but it is a tool. And check it out. And it looks like I did it correctly. And every time you go to move one, make sure that you were selected on the visible drawing. Okay, so now that we've centered our little owl guy, which looks quite interesting, to say the very least, we can go ahead and play the GIF, or the animation, whatever you want to call it. So it looks quite nice. I have found that the OLED screen plays frames quite quickly, and will not play the frames according to what you set them on Photoshop. So it's usually nice to put a double set of frames by just hitting this plus button on each frame. And it will go by not super rapidly like it does in the OLED screen, because it is not able to account for the timings and spacings of these frames. I'll do an example of what the framing looks like when I do single frames, so like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and when I use a set of 8 frames with duplicate frame images. So now we're ready to export our file. So we're going to go up here to File. I'm going to go down here to Export, and we're going to go here for Save for Web Legacy. We're going to click that, and you're going to see this. And all you're going to do is you're going to press save and select the place you would like to save at. For this, I'm just going to save it to the desktop, and we're going to save that. And now I'm just going to undo the added frames just to show you the difference of the quickness that is the OLED screen when you don't put double frames. So now that we have just exported our two GIFs, I'm going to go here to minimize. Now it's important to restart the program every time you add more images onto your desktop. Don't really know why, but sometimes it doesn't find the images if they're brand new. So it's just good to restart the Steelseries engine program. Now that we've restarted the program, we should be able to find our images quite easily on the desktop. So we're just going to go here to screen. This will normally show like a Steelseries logo that doesn't move. And go here to upload file. And now we're going to go select the one that we have the 2 set of frames per. And we're just going to go here and open it. And as you can see, this is actually quite faster than what we had even originally set with 1 frame. But we don't want this right now. So what we're going to do is just upload the file that only has 1 frame per and show you how fast that is. He is working out. He has never worked out so much in his life. So that just kind of shows you how quickly the things will move. And then before finishing this, I did want to show you how you could convert more larger files and reformatting them to make them work properly in this OLED screen. So let's go ahead and do that before we finish. So maybe creating this on a pixel by pixel basis, drawing in each individual pixel at a time, might not be quite how you would like to work. And there's a way around that. You can actually draw in just like any way that you would normally draw. You can draw on a piece of paper or in another digital program like Adobe Illustrator, or if you use Autodesk, you can draw on Autodesk first. And it's just important to keep with, if we go to new, keep with the same proportions that you had previously. So this is 128 by 40. And as we mentioned previously, it's equivalent to 920 by 60, which is, you know, basically a 1080p image that is scrunched down 600. So we can go ahead and open that and press create, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create a weird organic looking shape, right? That's kind of would be harder to create these rounded sort of edges with pixels right away, because it's like chop, 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 and it'll chop it all up, you know. Cool. So now we've got this really weird organic object that no one's probably going to want to put on their screen, right? But this is just an example. And we can take this now and go to File. No, go to Image. And go to Image Size. And you want to make sure this is selected here. This will keep the proportions the same. And we go to 128. And now, as you can see, this thing here actually kind of looks like letters. If it says something I didn't mean to, then I didn't mean to do that. And then we just take this and we're going to press OK. And so now it's really small in the corner over here, and we're going to have to go over to it. There's still one problem with this. As you can see, it's not just black and white anymore. It's black and gray. So what we're going to do is, oops, not that. We're going to go to Adjustments, go to the Threshold again. And this is what the threshold does, as I kind of explained in the last thing. It'll change everything from black to white with any image, even if the image is not black and white. So you can make it intense or not intense like this. And you don't have to necessarily have to draw this in Photoshop, because drawing in Photoshop is probably not ideal, I'm guessing. For the majority of people, it's not going to be ideal. You can go ahead and draw in the same dimension of 1920 by 600 in any program that you want. And just afterwards, just remember to import each image individually And you're going to do the same thing with create animation, add frames, and change those frames by highlighting the right image at the right time. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as best as possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like, comment, do all the things that are good, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.